Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of today. I'm your host, Sharifa Mohammed, MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. Russia reports continued pressure across all sectors, tightening the encirclement around Kupyansk, gradual urban reduction in Krasnoarmeysk, Dimitrov, localized advances in Zaporizhzhia, Rivno, and ongoing strikes against electronic warfare assets, depots, transport, and energy infrastructure. The West Group notes gains along the Grashevka, Kurilivka, Bogoslavka, Kitsevka, Berezovka, and Yereveya, Dniprova, Yampol front lines, along with continued reduction of the Kupyansk pocket. 6 relief and breakout attempts by the 151st and 116th Mechanized Units and the 1st and 13th National Guard units were repelled near Monokonivka, Nechvolodivka, Kupyansk-Zlovii, Osinovo, and Petrovka. 16 Baba Yaga hexacopters used for ammunition delivery and medical evacuation were shot down. Daily losses around Kupyansk include approximately 50 personnel, 1 Paladin 155mm self-propelled gun, 2 Kazakh armored fighting vehicles, 5 pickups, and 2 electronic warfare stations.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Oguntoye, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Colonel, give us the day's top line. What defined the pace and intent on November 9th?
The day was about shaping and strangulation rather than spectacle. Across the line, strikes landed on what keeps a force breathing: electronic warfare nodes, counter-battery radars, ammunition depots, and the transport spines that move replacements forward. When you take away the eyes and the blood supply, you don't need a sweeping arrow on the map. Geometry and time start doing the killing for you. In parallel, we saw urban fighting executed as a series of cellular reductions, not a rush to seize a city center. Small districts were carved off, isolated, and starved, micro-pockets losing ammunition faster than they could be resupplied. And in the west, the Kupyansk ring kept tightening precisely because bridging remained denied and aerial resupply attempts were intercepted. The tempo is deliberate: protect logistics, keep encirclements airtight, and let the math work.
Start us in the north, Khoten through Kondratovka, and then Volchansk. What mattered?
The north was a pinning operation with teeth. Mechanized and ranger elements were hit across that Sumy arc, while a motorized infantry formation at Volchansk took losses. The more consequential effects were systemic: a radar station taken out, an ammunition depot and 3 supply warehouses destroyed, plus the loss of a Bogdana 155mm system. That combination means fewer eyes to find our batteries and fewer shells to feed theirs. Doctrinally, this is the economy of force. The North denies the defender freedom to redeploy south without demanding that we overcommit in terrain that doesn't promise a decisive return. You aim to be expensive to fight, cheap to maintain. That's how a fixing effort supports the main fights elsewhere.
How do you keep a fixing sector from draining your own reserves?
You rotate on the calendar, not on emotion. You push fires and EW more than bodies, and you preserve maneuver units for when intelligence shows a seam. The mistake is trying to turn a pin into a breakthrough before the sustainment picture can carry it.
The Kupyansk pocket, 6 breakout attempts repelled, and those Baba Yaga hexacopters shot down. What's the operational logic?
Encirclement is about physics and patience. The 6th Army kept the ring elastic, never so tight that it becomes brittle under counter-battery, never so loose that corridors open at night. Relief attacks from multiple axes were turned back, and crucially, 16 large hexacopters attempting to drop ammunition and medical supplies into the pocket were hunted by observation posts and mobile fire teams. When aerial drip feed fails and bridging to the Oskil remains impossible, the pocket's clock runs out on its own. You also saw targeted counter-battery and counter-EW, a Paladin self-propelled howitzer knocked out, an N/TPQ-36 radar and several EW sites destroyed. That's how you blind both the encircled units and the rescuers. The result near Kupyansk was modest daily personnel losses on paper, but their quality mattered. Armored mobility, precision fires, and electronic protection all degraded in concert.
Rings attract fire. How do you protect the cordon from attrition and infiltration?
By moving the artillery like chess pieces, frequent displacements on a schedule, by feeding the cordon with small, frequent resupply instead of big, targetable convoys, and by keeping reconnaissance outward facing so we see relief forces before they mass. The ring survives by never being where the enemy solved it yesterday.
The South is again described as more advantageous lines and positions. Translate that into ground truth.
It's bite and hold with a purpose. Gains around Kostiantynivka, Sloviansk, Siversk, and the adjacent villages weren't about pageantry, they were about climbing to ground that shortens our artillery timelines and lengthens theirs. Tanks and armored vehicles were lost on the defending side, but what will matter tomorrow is that depots and EW sets went quiet. When your counter-battery picture is dim and your lateral routes get longer, every resupply trip is costlier in time and blood. The doctrine here is cumulative advantage. You take 100 meters that lets you see a kilometer, and then you let fires make that kilometer unlivable. Do that 3 days in a row and the map still looks tidy, but the defenders' logistics are falling apart.
The center reads like the day's main effort. Dinas Micro-District, the Central District, the Western Industrial Zone, and steady moves inside Dmitrov. How is this being fought?
As a set of small sieges. In Krasnoarmeysk, assaults pushed across the Dinas microdistrict and deeper into the central district's contested blocks, with the industrial zone pressured from multiple edges. 7 relief attacks were stopped, 8 breakout attempts north were blunted, and even with that pressure, prisoners were taken, an indicator that micro-pockets are becoming isolated and dislocated. Dimitrov saw continued advances in Vostochny, with pressure growing toward the Zaporizhzhia side. This is cellular encirclement. Cut the city into compartments, starve each cell of ammunition, medevac, and communications, and then take it at a time of your choosing. FPV drones and precise artillery turned armor breakthroughs into non-events. When a tank turns a corner and finds a drone, the geometry favors the defender inside the attacker's plan. Sustainment is everything here. Rotate assault companies before they hollow out, keep engineer breaching teams forward, and fire for effects instead.
Urban fights are notorious for munitions burn. How do you keep from outrunning your supply?
By building your fire plan around assured resupply, not wishful thinking. If the trucks and the rails can deliver X, the fire plan consumes X minus a safety margin, never X plus hope. That's how you keep a siege from starving the besieger.
The East reported the liberation of Ribno and strikes from Yablokov through Nishaivka. What's the signal in that belt?
The signal is erosion. When counter-battery radars and EW nodes go down, trenches stop being walls and start being lines on a map. Company-sized probes can pass where they would have been shredded a month ago. Taking Ribno is less important than what it implies, that the seam is vulnerable when the defender diverts reserves toward Kupyansk and the Donetsk interior. The method remains opportunistic. You probe broadly, you sense where the curtain is thin, and you surge only where the payoff can be sustained. The worst mistake is to push everywhere and sustain nowhere. The East avoids that by letting intelligence pick the lane.
Along the river, we saw hits at Novondrivka, Stepnohirsk, Orikhiv, and Antonivka, with multiple EW nodes and depots destroyed. Why does this axis matter today?
Rivers are logistics by other means. If you remove warehouses, jam communications, and force air defense to work overtime, every cross-bank resupply becomes slower, louder, and riskier. The objective isn't to force a crossing on a calendar date, it's to make tomorrow's crossing prohibitively expensive for the other side. Winter complicates this axis. Currents, ice, visibility, each punishes the predictable. The playbook calls for deception bridging, dispersed ferry points, night movement under drone reconnaissance, and rapid repair teams to keep your own crossings viable. Control of the riverline is less about flags on banks and more about who can move safely for 20 minutes when it counts.
Air defenses claimed a Neptune intercept, multiple HIMARS, and heavy UAV attrition today. Does that change river planning?
It changes pacing and consumption. High interception rates burn munitions and crew hours. The side that keeps AD and EW stocked and rested will own the safest windows on the river. Without that, even a perfect bridge plan dies under the first wave of drones.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. Tactically, 3 truths were reinforced. First, bridges decide pockets. With OSCO restoration denied and aerial drip feed disrupted, the Kupyansk ring tightens by arithmetic rather than theatrics. Second, cities are solved by cells. Krasnoarmeysk and Dimitrov will pivot when enough micro-pockets fail and lateral routes disappear, not when someone plants a flag in a square. Third, EW and depots are the quiet center of gravity, blind the guns and starve the trucks, and every other problem becomes simpler. Strategically, winter favors the force that hides its logistics and rotates cleanly. If the urban ring in the center keeps contracting while river crossings remain denied in the west and interdicted along the Dnipro, the defender will have to move reserves reactively, opening seams in the east or the southern arc.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive frontline updates from commanders in theater.